You trudge through the quiet diner, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the faint hum of the fridge in the back. It's late, past midnight, and the usual crowd is nowhere to be found. Just a handful of regulars scattered at their favourite booths, flipping through newspapers or staring vacantly at their phones. You're off duty tonight, the shift winding down. The sound of your rag against the tabletop is soothing. You've done this 100 times before. Wiped down the tables, cleaned the counters, maybe shared a joke or two with the locals who always stop by for a late-night snack. Nothing special. Just another evening in a place that's barely noticed by the outside world. As the night wears on, you're running on autopilot. A couple walks in, a lone guy hunched over his burger in the corner, nothing out of the ordinary. You greet them with the same polite smile, ask if they want coffee refills, and go back to your task. You're used to it. Life here is simple, predictable. Then the door opens, and in walks a man who immediately stands out. You're not sure why at first. Maybe it's the way he holds himself, straight-backed, his movements deliberate, almost as if he's a man who's accustomed to command. You don't see many like him in here, especially at this hour. The man's face is rugged, weathered in a way that suggests a history of hardship. A Navy SEAL, you guess. You've read the news, heard the stories. The intensity in his eyes is unmistakable. You watch him approach the counter, take a seat and glance around like he's scanning his surroundings. Quick, precise, but not paranoid. He orders a coffee, black, and a simple breakfast sandwich. His voice is low, almost a whisper, the kind of quiet confidence that makes people take notice without even trying. It's just a routine moment at first. You don't know it yet, but this seemingly ordinary interaction will soon spiral into something you'll never forget. For now, though, you smile at him. "You got it," you say. "I'll bring it right over." As you turn to head back to the kitchen, you catch a glimpse of him again. There's something about his presence, something in the way he sits there alone, as if he's not just eating a meal but observing, assessing. You shake it off. It's late and you're tired, probably just overthinking. But then something happens. You hear a noise, the kind of sound you usually ignore, the scrape of a chair against the floor. But this one is different. It's sudden, sharp. You glance up from the counter where you're loading the dishwasher. At first, it doesn't register. Then, the man at table 6 lurches forward, his body going limp, his face going ghostly pale. You freeze. It's a strange thing, witnessing someone lose control of their own body like that. You're not sure what's happening, but something is very wrong. The man slumps forward onto the table, his arms flailing weakly as he struggles to stay upright. The coffee cup he was holding slips from his hand, crashing to the floor. The people around him don't know what to do. They're staring in confusion, frozen, unsure of what to make of the sudden shift from ordinary to panic. You've been trained for moments like this. You've had your share of first aid training, the basic courses. You know what to do, at least on paper. But this is real. This isn't a textbook or a simulation. This is life and death. You rush to him, your heart pounding in your chest. You can hear the murmurs of the other patrons now, but everything feels distant. The noise of the diner fades as you kneel beside him, flipping his body carefully onto the side. His breathing is ragged, shallow. You press your fingers to his neck, trying to find a pulse. It's there, but it's weak, too weak. Your mind races. You need help. You need more than just basic knowledge now. But you're the only one here, the only one who can act. You lock eyes with the man, desperate to make contact. His eyes flutter, his lips barely moving, but you catch the faintest breath of words. "Help," he gasps, voice barely a whisper. In that moment, time seems to stretch. Every second is a lifetime, and every decision matters. You don't waste a second longer. Adrenaline floods your veins as your mind starts working faster than you've ever felt before. Training takes over, pushing panic aside. You reach into your apron and pull out your phone, hands shaking as you dial for help. 911. You've done this drill a dozen times, but this is different. This isn't some theoretical situation. This is real, and the stakes have never been higher. The dispatcher picks up immediately, her voice calm but clear. "What's the emergency?" she asks, and you try to steady your breath, making your words come out coherent. "There's a man collapsed at table 6, you say, your voice trembling slightly. "I think he's having a medical emergency. His pulse is weak and he can't breathe properly. Stay with him. Help is on the way. Start CPR if you can. The words hang in the air like an order, a lifeline. You push the phone to your ear. Your hands now working faster than ever, moving without hesitation. CPR, you've done this before, on a dummy, in a classroom. But now, it's real. The pressure of the moment is unlike anything you could have imagined. You place your hands on his chest, pressing down with force, the motion quick, rhythmic. 1, 2, 3, 4. You count in your head, following the sequence, making sure you don't stop. Every second feels like an eternity. His body is limp, unresponsive. The din of the diner, the murmurs of the shocked patrons, the low hum of the jukebox in the corner fades into the background. It's just you and him now. You notice his skin feels cold to the touch, like he's slipping away from you in real time. Every part of you is screaming to make him respond, to see any sign of life, any hint that he's still there. But nothing. Not yet. Minutes stretch on, and the dispatcher's voice comes back over the line, calm but insistent. Keep going. Don't stop until help arrives. It feels like you've been doing this forever, but you can tell that time has passed. Your arms are starting to ache, sweat beading down your forehead. You glance up for a split second, and for the briefest moment you make eye contact with a woman sitting nearby. She's staring, mouth agape, her hands frozen in place. No one else is moving, no one else is acting. It's like everyone else is waiting for someone to take charge. The pressure mounts. The diner is silent except for the rapid thudding of your palms against his chest. For a second, you wonder if you can really pull this off, but that doubt is fleeting. You've done the work, done the preparation. You don't get to back down now, not when someone's life is on the line. You push harder, faster, determined to keep the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. The seconds feel endless. And then, just as you begin to wonder if you can keep this up, something miraculous happens. A faint gasp escapes the man's lips. It's so weak you almost miss it, but it's there. His chest rises slightly under your hands. You press harder, but the hope in you ignites. He's still with you. He's still here. The moment is short-lived, though, because the man's body stiffens. The gasp is followed by a strained cough. And then he jolts upward, eyes wide open. The shock of it nearly knocks you back, but you're rooted in place, staring down at him. His breath comes in quick, shallow gasps as he lurches forward, hands grasping at the counter, his face pale and covered in sweat. He's disoriented, confused, and still too weak to fully sit up. You're not sure what to do next. Do you try to keep him calm, or do you wait for the paramedics to take over? You choose the latter, reaching for your phone again, your hands still trembling as you hear the wail of sirens approaching in the distance. The sound is a small victory in your mind. Help is coming. You stay with him, trying to ease his panic with your voice. "Stay with me," you say softly, your voice steady despite everything inside you racing. Help is almost here. You're going to be okay. He blinks at you, still unable to form words. His face twists as if he's trying to speak, but nothing comes out. It's not until the paramedics burst through the door that you feel a sense of relief. They rush to his side, asking questions as they begin assessing his condition, putting him on oxygen and prepping him for transport. One of them glances at you, offering a small nod of approval. "Good job," he says simply. "You did what needed to be done." You're not sure what to say. In that moment, it feels like a simple, humbling acknowledgement of what you've just done, what you've been forced to do. But there's something more to it. You've done CPR before, but nothing like this. No matter how much training you've had, it's never quite the same until you're faced with it in real life. The man is quickly stabilized, and the paramedics start loading him onto a stretcher. The diner is slowly returning to normal, the hushed whispers growing louder again as people realize that the crisis is over. The woman who had been staring at you earlier finally stands up, her voice trembling as she says, "Thank you, I didn't know what to do." You nod, not really knowing how to respond. There's nothing special about what you did. You did what you had to, and that was it. It's over now, but it will never feel completely over. Not for you. This moment will stay with you. As the paramedics wheel the man out of the diner, you feel the shift in the air. The crowd is still in a daze, their eyes following the stretcher. You can't help but wonder who this man is. A Navy SEAL, no less. And yet in that moment he was just another person, another life, hanging in the balance. You step back, breathing deeply as you realize the gravity of the situation. You were prepared for the basics, but what just happened was something no textbook or training manual could prepare you for. You just had to trust your instincts, your training, and your ability to stay calm under pressure. But there's one thing that lingers, something you can't shake. As the door closes behind the paramedics, you catch a glimpse of the man's face one last time, just before he disappears into the night, and you wonder who he really is, what his story is, and why he was there, in that diner at that exact moment. The diner gradually returns to its usual rhythm, but something feels different now. It's like the atmosphere has shifted, charged, but with an undercurrent of uncertainty. The customers who had been sitting quietly in their booths now murmur to each other, recounting what they just witnessed. But it's more than just a dramatic incident in a small-town diner. It's more personal, somehow. You can still feel your heart pounding in your chest. The adrenaline is fading, leaving behind the exhaustion, but your mind is still racing. The incident isn't over for you. The thought of that man, his sudden collapse, the desperation in his eyes, sticks with you. You did what you could, but the uncertainty of what happened before, what could have happened next, gnaws at you. You walk back to the counter, your legs feeling like jelly beneath you. The regulars are still talking, their conversations low but animated now, as if they can't quite believe what they've just witnessed. But none of them are offering to help. Not a single person stepped forward to assist, except you. And that thought sinks in deeply as you pour yourself a cup of coffee. It's then that the woman from earlier, the one who had been watching you perform CPR, makes her way to the counter. She doesn't say anything at first, just stands there for a moment, watching you. You look up at her, unsure of what to expect. She's older than you, but there's something about her face that seems younger than her years, hardened by life, yet full of empathy. Her eyes soften as she finally speaks. "You did good," she says quietly. Her voice is warm, but there's a tinge of sadness there, a weariness that only experience can bring. Not many people would have done what you did. You shrug, unsure how to respond. "I had to. No one else was doing anything." The woman nods slowly, and for a moment, there's a heavy silence between the two of you. It's not uncomfortable, though. It's a quiet recognition of what just transpired. She places a hand on the counter, leaning in slightly. "I watched you, you know. You didn't hesitate. You went straight to him, like it was second nature. You glanced down at the coffee in your hands, suddenly feeling exposed. There's nothing special about what you did. In fact, it's almost routine in a way. Something you trained for, something you've done before in different settings. But something about tonight makes it feel heavier, like it means more. Maybe it's because it was real." You glance up and the woman's gaze is unwavering. She's reading you, seeing beyond the surface. It's a reminder that moments like this don't just happen. They change people. They shape them, and sometimes they can reshape an entire outlook on life. You realize that, as much as you had to act in that moment, that very action could have lasting consequences for you as well. "What did you see in him?" she asks suddenly, her voice low. You didn't know who he was. What made you step in like that? You don't know how to answer her. What could you say? It was just a reaction. But there's something more to it, something buried deeper inside you. You've heard the stories of the heroes, the ones who step in without thinking, the ones who put themselves at risk, and somehow it feels right. But you're not sure why you did it. Why you risked everything to save a man you didn't even know. Was it because he wore a SEAL's insignia? Or was it something more universal, the simple humanity that drives us to help each other? "I don't know," you finally admit. I guess I just saw a man who needed help, and it didn't matter who he was or what he'd done before. He was there, and I had to do something." She looks at you for a long moment, as though weighing your words. Then, with a slow nod, she says, "That's the kind of thing that sticks with you, the kind of thing that changes you. You did good." Her words hang in the air, and for a moment you don't know what to say. But deep down, you know she's right. What you did tonight has already changed something inside of you. The realization is slow, almost imperceptible at first. It's like a seed that's been planted. something small but with the potential to grow into something more. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know that whatever you've just experienced is going to stay with you for a long time. The diner has quieted down now. The evening crowd has thinned, leaving behind only the soft clink of silverware and the low murmur of quiet conversations, the usual soundtrack of a late-night diner. But your mind keeps returning to the same question. Who was that man? The Navy SEAL who collapsed at table 6. Why was he there? What did he mean by that weak, gasping help when you knelt by his side? The thought nags at you, but just as quickly your attention is pulled back to the counter. You notice a napkin on the edge, folded neatly, with something written on it in a messy scrawl. You lean in and read the words, "Thank you for saving my life." The handwriting isn't elegant, but the message is clear. You look up in surprise, but the woman from earlier has already disappeared into the night, her figure disappearing through the door without a sound. You've never seen her before tonight, but there's something about her presence, about her understanding that lingers long after she's gone. You sit there for a few moments, letting the weight of everything settle. The man's life was saved, but more importantly, so much more was brought into focus tonight. It's not just about the act of saving a life. It's about what that life means, what it represents. The heroism that lies in the choices we make, in the simple, unassuming decisions that may seem like nothing at the time, but are everything in the end. Your hands are still trembling as you crumple the napkin and toss it in the trash, but somehow you feel lighter now. You're not sure what's ahead, but you know that tonight something inside you changed. And whatever that man's story was, wherever he came from, you'll never forget that night. You'll never forget table 6. And maybe, just maybe, you'll look at life a little differently from now on. The door of the diner swings open again, and the sudden jingle of the bell above the door startles you from your thoughts. You glance up, and for a brief moment, your mind plays a trick on you. For a second, you think it's him, the Navy SEAL who had collapsed earlier, but it's just another customer. An older man, his face crinkled with years of experience, his eyes weary but alert. You watch him walk to the counter, and your mind drifts back to that moment when everything changed. The second the SEAL collapsed at table 6, when your life and his collided. But now, there's a new quiet to the place. You've gone from being part of the diner's background hum to something much more. You're no longer just the waitress. You're someone who acted, someone who made a difference in someone else's life when it mattered most. It's a strange realization, this shift in identity. It's not like a medal that anyone can see, but it's there, deeper than any uniform or label. You continue with your usual duties, filling the coffee pots, sweeping the floor, the usual movements, but your mind is elsewhere. The man's face, pale and desperate, still lingers. The faint whispers from the patrons, talking among themselves, trying to make sense of what just happened, seem distant. They don't know. They can't know what it felt like to have someone's life in your hands, to see their breath flicker like a candle about to extinguish, to make a choice between doing nothing and doing everything. But you're not the only one with questions. Your mind is still racing. Who was that man? Why was he here, in a quiet diner, when everything could have ended so differently? You want answers, but you know you may never get them. It doesn't feel like a mystery you'll solve. The answers will remain locked in that moment, in the SEAL's silence. And yet, there's something about him, about his vulnerability, that has haunted you since he collapsed. You're just finishing up cleaning a booth when the diner door opens again, and this time it's not the usual late-night crowd. The man you've been thinking about, the Navy SEAL, steps through the door. He looks different now, less pale, more alert, though there's still a heaviness to his posture, as if the weight of his own mortality is still fresh on his shoulders. He walks slowly, carefully, almost as if testing his own strength, still recovering from whatever had knocked him down. The same calmness from earlier is in his movements, but now there's something more vulnerable, more human, in the way he holds himself. You freeze for a moment, unsure of how to react. He spots you immediately, his eyes locking with yours. He nods subtly, acknowledging the bond that was formed in those brief, terrifying moments at table 6. You notice that he's not alone anymore. With him is a man, slightly older, wearing a dark jacket that seems just a little too polished for this diner. The newcomer looks around curiously, his gaze landing on you for a moment before he looks away. The SEAL moves closer to the counter, and you instinctively straighten up. You are preparing yourself for the possibility that you might never see him again, that his face would fade into the realm of unknowns. But here he is, alive, standing before you. It's almost surreal. "Hey," the SEAL says softly, his voice still rough from the shock, but there's a quiet sincerity in it. "I wanted to thank you for what you did, back there." He pauses for a moment, scanning your face, trying to see if you truly understand what he's saying. "You saved my life." You swallow hard, unsure how to respond. It's strange hearing it from him, now that the crisis has passed. The weight of his gratitude feels heavier than it should. "I was just doing what anyone would do," you manage, your voice barely above a whisper. He shakes his head, and for a moment his eyes soften. "Not everyone would, and you did it without thinking twice. That's not something you see every day." His words settle in, and you realize that, despite your modest response, what happened tonight isn't something that just fades into the background. You did something that mattered. Something that made a difference. You didn't wait for someone else to act. You stepped up. In a world full of hesitation, you chose to move. And it's clear now, this SEAL knows it. He sees the courage you didn't know you had. There's a long pause between the two of you. The man who had been with him clears his throat. He seems a little out of place in the diner, his polished suit standing in stark contrast to the setting. He's clearly a different breed, but you don't need to know why he's here. You can tell he's more than just a bystander. There's something about the way he watches the interaction between you and the SEAL that hints at a deeper story. "I'm glad you're okay," you say finally, your voice steady now. You're not sure why, but something inside you shifts. Maybe it's because the reality of what happened has sunk in, or maybe it's because you're starting to understand the magnitude of your own actions. Either way, something inside you clicks. The SEAL gives a small smile, the kind of smile that speaks of both relief and understanding. "You probably don't know this," he says, lowering his voice just a bit, "but the guy who walked out of here, he's not just any Navy SEAL. He pauses as if he's weighing whether or not to continue. Well, let's just say he's more connected than you think." You raise an eyebrow. "More connected how?" The SEAL glances at the man next to him, and there's a shared understanding between them. "You're probably wondering who we are, huh?" The words come out like a confession, one he's not entirely sure he wants to make, but there's a sense of trust now between you two. "I'm not just a guy who walked in off the street. I'm part of something much bigger. But you were the reason I'm still here. You saved me." Before you can respond, the man in the jacket steps forward, his eyes assessing you carefully. There's no hostility in his gaze, but there's an intensity behind it that makes you feel like you're standing in front of a secret that's far beyond your world. "We'll make sure you're taken care of," he says, his voice deep and deliberate, "and when the time comes for you to know more, you'll know exactly what I mean." You blink, caught off guard by the weight of his words. What does this all mean? Who is this man really? And why are they telling you this? You've only just stepped into something far bigger than you could have ever imagined. As the two men walk out of the diner, you find yourself standing there, still processing everything. The diner is quiet again, but now the weight of tonight feels different. You've stepped into a world that's much more complicated than you could have ever expected. But one thing's clear. The SEAL didn't just leave you a simple thank you. He left you with a mystery. An invitation to a world that most people would never even dream of. And now, you're not sure if you can ever go back to the way things were. The night feels heavy as you watch the diner door swing shut behind them. The quiet that follows is almost oppressive. The hum of the fridge, the distant chatter of the few remaining customers, all blending into the background. But your mind is still racing. You feel a strange mix of excitement and confusion, like you've just been thrust into a world you never asked to be a part of. Yet somehow you can't seem to shake the feeling that you were always meant to be here, to be part of this story. As you finish cleaning up, your thoughts keep returning to the SEAL, his words hanging in the air like a challenge. When the time comes for you to know more, you'll know exactly what I mean. You can't help but wonder what he meant. What does he want from me? You've lived a quiet, uneventful life, spent countless hours in the diner, watching the world go by. But tonight was different. The SEAL's thank you wasn't just gratitude, it was an invitation. An invitation to something far larger than this small-town diner and far beyond the simple routine you've always known. You can't help but replay the details of that night in your mind over and over again. The urgency of the moment when the SEAL collapsed, his body going limp at table 6. The panic that surged through you as you administered CPR, feeling the weight of life and death in your hands. And then, the moment when he gasped for air, the spark of life flickering back into his body. The way he looked at you after, as if you had done something extraordinary. But it was just instinct. You didn't think. You just acted. Now that instinct is creeping up on you again. This time it's not the rush of a crisis, it's a quiet pull, an unseen force that's making you question everything about who you are and where you belong. The SEAL had made it clear. This isn't just some random encounter. There's a purpose to it. You can feel it in the pit of your stomach. As you make your way to the back to finish cleaning, you hear the familiar sound of footsteps approaching. You turn to see the same woman who had been sitting nearby earlier. She's back, but this time her expression is different. The usual uncertainty in her eyes is gone, replaced by something else, something almost knowing. She steps up to the counter where you've been wiping down the surface. For a moment, she doesn't say anything. She just looks at you, studying you with the same kind of quiet understanding she had before. Then, finally, she speaks, her voice low and steady. "I didn't get to say it earlier," she begins, "but you were amazing tonight. What you did, stepping up like that. I've seen people freeze in situations like that. But you?" She shakes her head, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You acted without hesitation, and that's rare." You look at her, unsure how to respond. You were just doing what had to be done, but it seems like she sees something more in your actions, something more than just the act of saving a life. There's a weight in her eyes, something deep that you can't quite place, but there's a feeling rising inside you too. She knows more. She's seen the same kind of thing, felt the same pull you're feeling now. "I don't know," you admit, your voice quieter now. "It just felt like the right thing to do. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing." She nods slowly as if she understands completely. "That's exactly it," she says. "You didn't wait for someone else to step in. You just acted, and that made all the difference." Her words hit you harder than you expect. It's like she's giving you permission, affirming what you've done in a way that feels both freeing and daunting. Maybe it's because you never saw yourself as a hero, as someone who could be part of something bigger. But now in this small, quiet diner, you realize that maybe you are. You made a choice to stand up when no one else would. And that's what changed everything. The woman leans in slightly, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "There's more going on here than you know. That man, the SEAL, he's not just any soldier. What happened tonight was more than just an accident. You're part of something now, whether you realize it or not." You stare at her, confused, trying to make sense of what she's saying. What do you mean? You want to ask, but you hold back. There's a hesitation in the air, something unspoken, and you feel like she's testing you. "Are you ready?" is what she seems to be asking with her gaze. She doesn't wait for an answer. Instead, she simply gives a short nod and turns to leave, but before she does, she says one last thing. "You'll understand soon enough." The door chimes as she exits, leaving you standing there, more uncertain than ever. What did she mean? You look down at your hands, still feeling the echo of the SEAL's life pulsing in your fingertips. You weren't supposed to be part of this story, were you? Just a waitress in a diner. But now you're part of something far bigger than this place, far beyond the simple life you've always led. The rest of the night passes in a blur. You clean, serve, and listen to the quiet murmur of conversations around you. But all you can think about is what that woman said. What was she talking about? And what was it that you were now a part of? The SEAL's visit was no accident. Neither was your quick decision to act. You did what you did because you were meant to. The world may never fully understand it, But you know one thing for sure now. You're part of something that's bigger than this diner, bigger than the life you've always led. The question is, what happens next? When you close up the diner and head home that night, you're not just heading home from a shift, you're walking into a new chapter of your life, one that you didn't ask for, but somehow, you know you'll never be able to walk away from. The days that follow are a strange blend of ordinary and extraordinary. You go back to the routine of your life, waking up, heading to work, wiping down tables, making coffee, laughing with the regulars. The rhythm of it all is comforting, familiar, like slipping into a pair of old shoes. But beneath that surface, something's changed. You can't stop thinking about the seal, his sudden collapse, and the cryptic words of the woman who had spoken to you. You keep waiting for something to happen, some sign that you've crossed into a world that's completely different from the one you've always known. A week passes. The diner remains the same, filled with the usual crowd. The days are busy, but the pace is slower than you remember. There's a shift in the air, like everyone is waiting for something, but no one knows exactly what. You keep expecting to hear from the seal, to have him walk back through those doors with some kind of explanation, but nothing happens. The mystery of that night lingers, and with each passing day it only seems to grow. You start to question whether it was all a dream. The way the man's life had slipped away from him, the way you had fought to keep him alive, how in the end you saved him, was it all just some fluke? Could the woman have been wrong? Were you really part of something bigger, or was it just a coincidence, a random event that meant nothing more than a fleeting moment in time? But then, one evening, when you're closing up the diner, you hear it again. The sound of the door swinging open. You look up, expecting the usual late-night customer, but your heart skips a beat when you see him. The seal. He's standing in the doorway, looking stronger now, but there's still that same intensity in his eyes. This time, there's no one with him. It's just him. And for the first time, he's not just a soldier or a mysterious figure. He's the man who owes you his life. He steps into the diner, his boots heavy against the floor, and walks up to the counter where you stand. You freeze, unsure of what to do. The air between you feels thick, like there's something unspoken that both of you are afraid to acknowledge. He gives you a small nod, a silent recognition of everything that's happened between you two. "I wasn't sure if I'd see you again," you say, breaking the silence, the words coming out more nervous than you intended. The seal looks at you for a moment, and then, with a quiet exhale, he sits down at the counter. He leans forward slightly, his hands resting on the polished wood, and for a second, there's nothing but the sound of your breathing. "I've been meaning to thank you properly," he says, his voice steady but tinged with something you can't place. "You saved my life, and I don't know if there's any way I can ever repay you for that." You shake your head quickly. "You don't owe me anything," you reply. "I just did what anyone would have done." His eyes narrow slightly, a small, knowing smile tugging at his lips. "Not everyone would have. What you did, what you didn't hesitate to do, was something few people are capable of." He pauses, his gaze drifting for a moment, as if considering his next words carefully. "You're more than just a waitress. You know, you have a strength that most people don't even realize they have." You feel the weight of his words, but also something else, a sense of responsibility. What did he mean by that? You weren't sure, but now the mystery of it all seemed even deeper than before. He leans in closer, his voice soft but urgent. "I can't explain everything right now, but I can tell you that there are people who are watching this, watching you, and what happened that night was only the beginning." You blink, your mind racing. The words are heavy, but they don't make sense. "People are watching me?" Why? You want to ask him more, to demand answers, but the words get caught in your throat. He notices the look on your face and places a hand on the counter. "I know this is all a lot to take in, but I need you to understand something. That night, it wasn't a random event. You did more than save a life. You made a choice that has consequences." His voice becomes more serious, and his gaze locks onto yours. You stepped into something much bigger than you realize. The diner is quieter now. The few customers who remain in their booths have noticed the intensity of the conversation, but they wisely choose not to intrude. You're left staring at him, processing everything he's just said. "Why me?" you finally ask, your voice barely above a whisper. "Why me, out of everyone else in that diner?" He pauses before answering, his eyes searching your face. "Because you're different. You have something inside you that made you act when no one else did. It's not something you can teach. It's something you have to feel." He leans back in his chair, letting out a long breath. "And it's the kind of thing that draws people like me in. People who need that kind of strength to be around." You feel your pulse quicken, the uncertainty and confusion clouding your thoughts. What kind of people? What is he talking about? "Look," he says, sensing your unease, "I'm not asking you to understand everything right now, but I need you to trust me on one thing. This isn't the end of the story. You're part of something now, something I can't explain yet, but you'll see soon enough." You want to argue, to ask more questions, but before you can, he stands up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I've said what I needed to. Just know that there's more. And when the time comes, you'll know what to do." He gives you one last look, almost like a warning, then turns and walks out of the diner. The door chimes again, and suddenly the quiet of the room feels overwhelming. The weight of what he said hangs in the air, leaving you with more questions than answers. You stand there for a long moment, the silence deafening. The diner is empty now, save for you and the lingering mystery of the man who just left. And as you stare into the quiet night outside, you know that nothing will ever be the same again. You're not just a waitress anymore. You're something more. And the world, it seems, is about to change for you in ways you never expected.